Oh, theft for you, though. Yeah, they're gonna steal that. Yo, let's go! Amazing!
Hi everyone, Happy New Year. If you clicked on this video because you're a subscriber, don't worry, there'll be more strata content coming very soon. So if you just want to do the usual algorithm boosty things and be on your merry way, I will see you in the next video. For the rest of you, yes, it's true, I've found a way to do prop surfing in 2024. This is a universal tech, meaning it can be done on any class. All you need is a light with a motion sensor. It's also very easy to perform. Last night a mate of mine literally did it on his first try in his first ever game on the finals. You can use it either horizontally or at an angle, and you'll get more speed or height depending on the angle you use. And since it's possible to have 3 motion sensors active at the same time, an entire squad can use this tech in sync for an insane dive on an enemy team. This video might get fairly dense, so I'm going to split it into chapters, starting with the simple basic stuff, so if you just want to watch for a couple minutes and then jump into a game, you're more than welcome to do so. But my friends and I have also done extensive testing with this tech, so I'm also going to dive into a bit of the theory as to what I think is going on behind the scenes here, which should let us expand upon this tech in the future. To set up this trick, all you need is a red canister and a motion sensor. First, you need to prime the canister so that one bullet will set it into its rocket state. You can do this with guns, but it's consistent across all classes if you just melee it twice and then pick it up. Just make sure you don't melee the top of the canister, because that will set it off instantly. Next, we need to place our canister, and there's a couple rules that govern whether or not the trick will work depending on where we've placed it. From my testing, I've found that the canister needs to become ungrounded a certain amount of time after we trigger it. The simplest way to do this is to find a flat surface with a sharp drop-off and place the canister about a meter away from the ledge. Then place your motion sensor towards the back of the canister, making sure it's pointed directly up. It can still work if it's pointed at a slight angle, but it's more consistent if it's vertical. Now you just hop on the canister, making sure the motion sensor is behind you. Now you don't have to be super precise with where you stand, but I find it's best to stand as close to the motion sensor as possible. Now when you're ready to launch yourself, all you have to do is shoot the canister. If you do nothing from here, you'll notice you get a short amount of speed and then quickly lose all your speed and drop off. From what I can tell, what's happening is the game applies a speed cap if you stay in one state for too long. To get around this, you're going to time a series of inputs to get maximum distance and speed. The basic inputs look like this. First, you shoot the canister and hold no directional input for about 0.7 seconds. Then, start holding forward. 0.7 seconds later, you jump. This is where the challenge and skill expression comes in. You're going to want to practice these timings and get them nailed down. These timings also vary with different angles. I find the higher your angle is, the longer you want to wait before you hit that jump button. So that's the tutorial. Now let's look at why this happens and some more advanced or niche applications of this tech. So prop surfing has been a thing in various forms in the finals since alpha, and they've patched it out a couple different times. But recently someone discovered a tech where you can put a motion sensor on a red canister and then grapple it while it's in midair. I'll put the correct credit for this on the screen and down in the description. As cool as that tech is, it can only be used by light players, and it locks you into using both the motion sensor and the grapple, both abilities that are pretty far out of the meta right now. So I was thinking about ways to get around using the grapple, and I had the idea that maybe the motion sensor has physical collision with player models. Carrying physical items in games has always been a bit of a janky thing to implement, because you have to have edge cases where the prop either can or cannot collide with the player themselves, and if they're picking them up, then there's a whole bunch of weirdness that can be introduced. So it looks like we're in a bit of a movement tech arms race with the community and the developers, and I really hope the developers will leave this tech in. To me, it feels fairly balanced, fairly consistent, and extremely fun to pull off. Essentially what we're doing with this tech is we're confusing the game's collision states by making it unsure whether we're actually grounded or not. By the way, all of this is just speculation from my own personal testing. But basically by becoming ungrounded without jumping while still having something touching our feet, the game doesn't quite know what to do. And since while we're in this state, we have a physical object pushing from behind us in the form of the motion sensor, the game basically performs physics calculations on the player as if we were the canister, inertial reference frames and all that. The game seems to have a lurch system similar to games like Apex and Titanfall, and what that does is it tries to correct for anomalies in player speed, which this would be one of. You can see this working as intended if you try and do this tech on the ground, or if you perform the tech with the proper setup but don't do any of the movement inputs. What I think is happening is every time you change your movement state, there's a little hidden timer, and if you stay in that state while above a certain speed threshold for too long, the game will lurch you back and reduce your speed. So we get around this lurch by changing our movement state. So far I've managed to do this 3 times, but it would be a massive improvement of this tech if we could get that up to 4. So the first state is you're on the ground pressing no movement inputs, then you trigger the canister. Now you're ungrounded, moving above the speed cap, whilst holding no directional inputs, so that starts timer number 1. Then before the first lurch kicks in, you start holding forward. That's timer number 2. If we were to remain in this state, the game would again lurch us back and kick us off the canister, so we have to time a jump, and that's our final input. One interesting thing is your physics calculations seem to still be relative to the canister even for a little bit after you've jumped off of it. In this clip you can see I kind of mess up my inputs and I seem way off the canister, but it still gives me a speed boost. This makes me think it might be possible to jump off the canister and then land on it mid-air at certain angles, which would be absolutely bonkers. So the goal for extending the movement tech is to remain on the canister for as long as possible, so go wild, try a bunch of different input combinations, and let's see what we can figure out as a community. So that's the tech in isolation, but what can we do with it? There's a couple situations where I find this tech is really good. Now, I should preface this by saying my friends and I were very much not tryharding when we were going for clips last night. We were just kind of experimenting and seeing how far we could push it. Strategy number 1, arguably the simplest, is to just use it solo as a light player as like a pocket grapple hook. This can be very useful when defending. You can optionally bring C4 and build yourself setups for this on the fly. I would highly recommend that. Say you're defending a cash out in a building, you can blow out a couple of windows, grab a couple red canisters, and aim them in the direction you think enemy teams might come from. You can just leave the motion sensors on the canister, that way you actually get the utility that they're supposed to provide, and then just scout and play the fight normally, and when you see a team pushing you, jump on your canister and boom, you're in their backline with all your cooldowns. But the real meat and potatoes are when you start introducing teammates to the mix. Basically, at the cost of the time it takes to find and set up a red canister, your heavy can have a pocket grapple hook, as well as all their normal abilities. Like I mentioned, it's completely possible to use 3 of these at one time and send your entire team into the enemy backline. The only caveat is that you have to wait for at least 1 motion sensor cooldown to set this up, so it can take a while. Now, prop surfing like this isn't just for these massive flashy plays. There's also a bunch of very viable mid-fight techniques that you can do on a much smaller tactical scale. Remember, all you need is basically any deviation in ground height to set this up. So a set of stairs, some uneven or destroyed terrain, or even just the lip of a rooftop, all of that is prime real estate here. So here we're defending a cash out and I have a red canister. I set it up close to me from a safe angle, pointed right into the team fight and put my motion sensor down. And in theory I can leave that there pretty much as long as I want. So I have an easily accessible instant reposition in the middle of the fight whenever I feel like it. The biggest drawback of this tech is the time it takes to find and prep red canisters, so communicate with your team and get them to pick up as many as they can and drop them near you. If you can work this into your general gameplay, you'll massively extend you and your team's movement options, allowing for some absolutely sicko mode rotations. For example, this play where I used the tech to steal a cash vault could have been improved. What if I'd communicated to my medium and asked them to set up a canister pointing to B? That way I could have thrown it back to them, they could have got on the canister and boom, we're cashing out. It's definitely possible to be way more efficient with this than I am. For one, you can prep the canister by shooting it instead of meleeing it. Take the time to figure out how many shots this takes from your gun of choice. On light, it's 3 with the pistol, 5 with either of the SMGs, or 1 with the sniper. I can imagine better teams working this into their gameplay so that part of their rotation and setup plan is to lay a bunch of primed canisters around the objective before the fight starts, so that way when it does, they can just drop a canister whenever they want, the light can set it up for them, and boom, they're on their way. Another important aspect to this technique is triggering your teammates' canisters. For example, my heavy is holding 17k here, and there's 2 teams between us and the cash out. So I set up a canister and tell them not to shoot it. Once they're on, I hit them with a vanishing bomb and then trigger the canister myself. Now, if you're like me, your mind is probably racing with all the possibilities of sending a heavy invis flying through the sky. Triggering your teammate's canister is also a very easy way to send them on their way whilst holding something like the cash vault or a canister. But if you're absolutely cracked, you can shoot your own canister and then quickly swivel and pick up whatever it is you want it to fly with. There's one more massive potential piece of tech which we've come across once and haven't yet been able to replicate. But if we can solve it, it would let us launch ourselves really high into the air on command whilst riding a canister. Which is crazy, that basically puts it on par with the grapple hook in terms of how far you can get, as well as giving you massive mix-up potential. So what we think happened in this clip is somebody blew up my heavy's canister just as they were jumping. And if somebody else can trigger this by blowing up the canister, then what's stopping us from doing it? So I think the timing might be something like jump and shoot at the same time, or very, very close spacing. We'll have to do more experimentation on that front. If we find it first here, then I'll probably post a short update link. Otherwise, you can join the finals rollout subreddit. It's very likely that someone will figure this out before I do, and that's probably where the clip will end up first. Now, it feels kind of weird asking people to subscribe on this video because it's so far outside what I've normally done on this channel. I'm actually a game developer working on a movement tech-based speedrun platformer. The demo is out now for free on itch.io. If you're at all interested, the link's in the description. It takes like 3 clicks to download. We also have a Discord community. That's also a good place to reach out to me if you want to ask any questions about this video. But as always, if you got some sort of value from this video, then I would appreciate it if you boosted me in the algorithm by clicking the buttons and writing the words. I'm going to leave you with a couple of my favorite clips from the recording session me and my mates did. In these clips, we kind of engaged using prop surfing and then dialed it in for some sweaty gamer goodness.
If I had ever so slightly better aim, that would work. There's a sword guy as well. Oh, UG! UG!
Let's go.
You do not do that! Let's fucking go!
I'm getting on the crane.
No. Okay, yeah, that's a good idea, actually.
It's always a good idea.
Just keeps the big splash.
I'm miles
Leo, you alright down there?
No!
Oh shit, why are you down there? I thought you were on the crane.
I was, then I teleported across the map using the canister, and now I can't get out. I'm out.
There's a ton of explosives up here. Low gravity.
Perfect. This is huge. Alright. We're gonna launch off this orange building.
Right, send me in, boss.
Yep.
That was such a good one. Fuck.
Holy shit. Wait, we're right above. Let's jump in. We steal.
There's a guy up above you, I think. I'm dropping a dome shield right on the point.
Heavy half.
Heavy dead. 2 dead.
Your call.
Go on point.
Tapping.
That.
In this.
I'm capturing.
One more.
Got it.
Alright, best
Right.
defense ever. Let's go.
Dropping. Guy here. 2 with a medic as well. It's 2 mediums, I think. Well, heavy. Another guy here.
Come back point if you can. Holy shit.
That was beautiful.
Oh my god.
Beautiful.
Oh. Oh.
That was amazing.
That's
Okay,
it.
your strat. It works. It works. Hard to execute, but it works.